My comedy special is out now, jfcomedyspecial.com. The link is in the show notes. Pay what you want to get full access right now, right this minute. You can start watching it. It will come out on YouTube and be available to the public in July, but this gives you early access. And again, that link is in the show notes. And I am thrilled for you guys to see it. Be sure and tell me what you think. The topic for today is, you will not believe this, but I am now a cheer mom. Me. I'm a cheer mom. That is so funny to everyone who knows me. I was goth in high school. You know, I cheered for Skulls and Death and like goth music. And like, the idea of me being a cheer mom. And I have, my kids were laughing so hard at this when they saw this. On the calendar for this weekend, I am going to a cheer mom social. And they told everyone to bring a homemade snack for us to share. So we need to, I'm bringing snacks to the cheer mom social. This is so funny to me. And so what this episode is about, it's actually not about cheer or even being a mom. What it is about is how we don't know what will make us happy in life. Your biggest problem is that you think you know what will make you happy. People are like, I'm miserable because I didn't achieve my goals. I think a lot of you are miserable because you did achieve your goals. They were just the wrong goals. You don't know what will actually make you happy. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that I made when I was younger. I thought I knew myself. I thought I knew what kind of lifestyle would really bless me. And I was wrong about all of it. So how do you have a life that is fulfilling and it's where you need to be when you don't know yourself and you don't know what you want? Well, that is what today's episode is about. And then we have some great intro topics. Listen, okay, we're going to talk about the rap beef again. But like with our main topic, it's not really about the rap beef per se. It's about a bigger, broader subject that actually relates to our main subject. And I think you guys will actually really like this one because there is a great surprise twist at the end. Longtime podcast listeners might know it. I referenced this briefly like a year ago, but if you already knew this information that I am about to share, you are an OG fan. You are a real Jen Fulwiler show super fan. Most of you won't know it. It's going to be a great surprise twist. So the main topic is me being a cheer mom, and that leads into how do you craft a great life when you don't know yourself or what you want. That's the main topic. And as usual, we will get to that in the second half of the show. We always get to the main topic in the second half, and the first half is where we do all of our intro topics and good stuff like that. I am coming to Charlotte, Greenville, Birmingham, Huntsville, and Nashville. And you can get your tickets at the link in the show notes. Keep your iTunes, your Apple Podcast reviews coming. Someone left this great review. She was raving about last week's coverage of the rap beef. She says, the breakdown of the rap beef literally made my entire day. We definitely need more of that content. Also, we need a playlist of the whole beef. By the way, my daughter did that. Yes, my daughter has it. It's on YouTube. I'll find it. She says, love the podcast, Jen. And the subject of the review, it says 5 stars, but she accidentally gave it 1 star. If you could go back and edit that, you're bringing down my average here. But I appreciate it. You know what? I would rather, this is an interesting philosophical question. Would I rather get a review? And I've had a few of these where they're like, Jen Fulwiler is insufferable. I hate her. I hate this podcast. But they accidentally give me 5 stars versus 1 star, but it's actually a really nice review. I can't decide, Am I more of a numbers person or more of an emotion person? I will be pondering that. And you are, of course, listening to the Jen Fulwiler Show. I'm your host, Jen. I am a best-selling author, stand-up comic, and mom of 6. And this is the podcast where you learn the art of the village hustle. That is being a hot girl boss or hot boy boss who knows that love and family and community are the foundations of all true success. We are coming to you from Austin, Texas. We publish new episodes every Wednesday morning without fail, no matter how bad I feel, such as today. And we publish new episodes every Wednesday morning. And I would like to thank our many children. We have 10 children here right now. Caitlin's 4 and my 6. And I would love to thank them for making noise outside of the studio door to really give us that village feel, so that it's not like, but Jen's not really living it. She's not really living a village life. You know, by the random banshee sounds that you hear while I'm trying to record, you know that I'm actually living what I speak about. Caitlin White is our wonderful producer. You can work with her. Link at the show notes below. She does consulting. And we publish new stuff on Patreon every week. It is hot, fresh content every week. The Village Hustle level is the top level, and you get everything in addition to my kind of little, I think of it as like mini life coaching sessions. Like, this is what works for me. This is some tip. This is some trick that completely changed my life. This is how I balance family and work and mom guilt and things like that. It's really kind of the down to the bones. Here's what we actually do here. And you can get all of that info on Patreon. That link is also in the show notes. It is patreon.com/thisisjen. Okay. Now, but seriously, this isn't just about the rap beef. For those of you who are like, but I don't care what's going on with Kendrick and Drake because I only listen to Christian music. First of all, I'll pray for you. I mean, let's be real. Christian music it's a little weird, some of it. And I love a good Protestant guitar solo where, the guy is like crying and screaming and just, like you put your hands in the air. Like, I mean, I get it. Some of that music is good, but some of it is also weird when it is unclear if this guy is singing about a woman or singing about Jesus. It's funny. When I was on Sirius XM, I used to play this game that now Lino Rulli has. We don't want to say stolen, borrowed. I bequeathed it to him when I killed my radio show. It was in my radio will that I left him this segment. And so what's so funny about this is his producer Tyler will choose songs that we hear a clip of this song, and we have to guess if it's a Christian song or not. And so often the clip will be like, your touch sends me into ecstasy. I feel alive whenever I think of you. When you gaze at me, I'm aroused. And we're like, okay, so that's just a regular, that's a love song. That's a song about being at the club. Oh no. Oh no. It will be like from Living Water Studios, and the band is called like John 3:16 or whatever. And so, yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying that, expand your repertoire. Okay. I don't think God wants us to be listening to a lot of Christian music. I think God is up there like, this is trash. Like, this is garbage. You guys, like, there's no art to this. Like, it sounds like he's singing about some chick. Like, guys, stop. Like, cut it out. I really feel like that's God's opinion. If you want real Christian music, look up Thomas Tallis. He was a composer in the 1500s. And they did music for like the mass. This is kind of when the church was falling apart. It was probably like an Anglican mass, but yeah, that's okay. The music is really beautiful, and it's for the mass. And just look up that choral music. If you want to listen to Christian music, listen to choral music. Listen to Gregorian chant. Don't listen to Celebration Station Studios. Okay. So anyway, well, that was that tangent is over. Button. That was a tangent. And now we will be laser focused on the main topic. And this is a topic where, trust me to weave, okay? These aren't tangents. I will be weaving. And that's what I do on this podcast. I take a bunch of disparate topics that seem to be unrelated, and I weave them together to create a beautiful tapestry, if you will. A tapestry of hip-hop gossip is what we're doing today. And it leads up to a point that will honestly, truly be very inspiring to you. So stick with me. Okay, so last week I was talking about the Drake Kendrick Lamar beef. To catch you up to speed on that, Kendrick Lamar, Metro Boomin, and who was the other person who we realized was involved? Well, J. Cole.
Maybe The Weeknd.
Yeah, The Weeknd, and then J. Cole was kind of involved, and then he immediately saw himself out, but now he's catching strays too. It's so funny. Okay, so that all started, and so Drake created, I'm in the minority with this, but I think it's one of the best diss tracks of all time. I think it's so funny, his song Push-Ups. It's hilarious. And in that song, he very loudly calls out Metro Boomin in probably the funniest way I've ever heard someone dissed in a diss track. So anyway, if you feel like you need to know every detail of the rap beef, obviously this is the podcast that you come to for that. Who else would you listen to for talking about hip-hop beefs? That's in episode 206. You can find all of that. So I'm going to update you on what's going on now and weave it into a great lesson about just following your interests and where God will take you when you just follow things that inspire you without overanalyzing it and getting in your head and putting a bunch of rules on yourself that don't need to be there. So, Soulja Boy has entered the chat. Soulja Boy, like, had you heard of Soulja Boy? Had you heard his name? Okay, yeah, people have heard of, Soulja Boy, tell him, people have heard of, Soulja Boy. So by the way, everyone in hip hop is now involved. It's, you know how in WWE, sometimes it's like just two guys are fighting, but then it turns into a free for all. People are coming out of the locker rooms, fans are getting in the ring, and just everyone's punching everyone. That is what is going on in hip hop right now. And it is hysterical. The whole thing is so funny. So, again, a point that relates to me and to you is coming with this. So, Soulja Boy is now involved. And first of all, let me give you a little background on Soulja Boy. He's known to be like, he does not have low self-esteem. No one thinks that he suffers from that. One of the kind of inside jokes about Soulja Boy is that he always says he's the first person to have done anything. And I followed hip hop for years, so I was aware of that joke that Soulja Boy is, for example, whenever there's a new scientific discovery, like it was going viral. Let's say when the vaccine first came out, for COVID, people would joke like, well, Soulja Boy discovered that like 3 years ago. He just chose to keep it to himself because Soulja Boy does everything first. So one of the funniest things I've ever, really like a hip hop joke that is one of the funniest things I've ever seen is this sketch that I'm about to play for you by a creator who you need to be following called Agent Phe, P-H-E, Agent P-H-E. He's so funny. He's so wonderful. So I saw this go viral a few years ago, and I watched this so many times. You can kind of catch it from the audio, but to set it up, what you're about to hear, if you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, which would be a very sad thing, you need to go look at my YouTube and subscribe. But so for the audio, if you guys are familiar with the concept that kids would sometimes summon like Bloody Mary, you would stand in a dark bathroom and you would say Bloody Mary over and over again, and supposedly you would see something in the mirror. Do you think had you heard of that, Caitlin?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So this is a note. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you say that phrase over and over again, and supposedly, I don't know, is that supposed to be the Blessed Mother? Who is that? I don't know. I never, I was an atheist, so I would never get into that. I'd be like, it's the molecules in your brain. I ruined a lot of slumber parties as an atheist because I wouldn't even do the occult stuff. They would have a crazy Ouija board moment, and I'd be like, that's your hand moving the Ouija board. And then they'd, do the Bloody Mary thing in the mirror, and I'd be like, that's a mirage from the chemicals of your brain. And they'd be like, you're the most annoying person in the third grade. Like, this sucks having you at slumber parties. I child atheists ruin everything. So, okay, so the audio you're about to hear is a guy, he's doing like a summoning thing in the mirror. And those of you who are blessed enough to be watching this fine episode on YouTube can watch it. There is some language. We did our best to edit it out. I'd say we did a B+ job of editing out the language that you are about to hear. Go ahead and play this sketch about Soulja Boy.
I was the first person to...
Man, stop playing with me. What? I'm the first nigga to do all type of shit. I'm the first.
So Soldier Boy shows up in the mirror. Man, stop playing with me. I love it so much. I watched that so many times. I mean, the thing has like 20 million views, and I think 19 million of them are from me. And again, look it up on my YouTube, or just look up Agent Fee Soldier Boy. Again, be sure to follow this creator. He's so funny. And it's not just hip hop stuff. He does a lot of just relatable life stuff. I think you guys would actually like him a lot. But yeah, that was just so funny to me. So that is Soldier Boy's background. So Soldier Boy has jumped into this beef free-for-all that is going on because he found a tweet that Metro Boomin tweeted in 2012 that took a little dig at Soldier Boy. Now, to review, remember, class, okay, imagine me in front of a chalkboard. Remember, class, whose side is Metro Boomin on? Is Metro Boomin on Kendrick's side or on Drake's side? Class, do you remember? Kendrick, yeah. Yes, he was on the original Kendrick diss, and then Drake, as we said last week, has had that hilarious line where the music stops, and in so many words, I am very much paraphrasing, Drake says, "Metro, please be quiet and just go make beats." And then that line became very famous, and so Drake hired a mariachi band to just repeat that line over and over and over and sing it in the mariachi style music, and Drake put that on his Instagram. Okay, so Metro is on the Kendrick side of the beef, and so Soulja Boy, who previously had not been involved at all, he comes in, he finds this tweet from Metro back in 2012. And in 2012, Metro brags, "My phone rings to come to the studio with Jeezy. Your phone rings to send Soulja Boy a pack of beats. Sit down." Sit down? This is incredible. So now here is where my loyalties are getting a little complicated in this beef, because this is a minority opinion, but I was kind of on Drake's side. Most people are not. And I am considered as having very bad taste in music, particularly hip hop, because I side with Kendrick over Drake. But this is now making me, this has complicated things. Soulja Boy then went on Mother's Day, which was this past weekend. Soulja Boy went on Instagram and said, "Happy Mother's Day" to Metro. Metro's mother was killed by her boyfriend in 2022. So that is even people in hip hop are like, he crossed a line. That is not funny. That's not beef. That is just 100% not okay. I was so devastated on Metro's behalf when I saw that. Like, that's it, as bad as this beef has been. And they are even people who originally said, yeah, the industry just started this beef to sell more records. When they started hearing what Kendrick and Drake were actually saying about each other and each other's families, even the people who thought this was an industry fake were like, "Oh no, okay, well, this is real. This is actually real." I mean, they're bringing in their families into it. I mean, it has gotten pretty nasty. But even in hip hop beefs, there are lines you don't cross, and that was one of them. And so now I am just so horrified that anyone would say that to Metro. It makes me feel so bad for him. And he's always seemed fairly sweet, even though he's involved in this beef. Now I am just like, I just want Metro to win. He's now has probably a side beef with Soulja Boy, and 100% I am on Metro's side for this. And so now I am super, super rooting for Metro Boomin to just win and have good things happen to him from this. And I was seriously praying for him. No joke. I was like praying that, that his mom's looking out for him and blah, blah, blah. I got very emotional about that. And I'm the only person who was getting emotional about rap beefs, but seriously, it crossed a line. It was terrible. So now Meek Mill has gotten involved, and Meek Mill very famously had a very big beef with Drake. Remember Drake on the other side of this from Metro Boomin. Meek Mill has now jumped in and is insulting Soulja Boy which is good. So we like that. But of course he would see Meek Mill. Now you guys can predict this because you know everything about the rap world from this podcast. We can predict that Meek Mill probably would jump in and defend Metro because he hates Drake. So anyone who is, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So anyone who hates Drake is a good man in Meek's book. So now he is insulting Soulja Boy, and Soulja Boy had his prominence more years ago. Like Soulja Boy isn't as much making new music as some of these other guys. And so Meek Mill said something like, this is just really sad to see Soulja Boy, clamoring for relevancy, basically, that he's, this, like, he needs to just go accept his irrelevancy and stop trying to say nasty things to get into a beef that really has nothing to do with him. Now, somehow 50 Cent got involved. Yes. Okay. So I don't know. I actually, Caitlin, hang on. Would you just Google Meek Mill 50 Cent? Because I am unclear why 50 got involved in this. But one thing to know about Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent, he uses his Instagram only to talk smack about people he hates. He is not on social media for any other purpose. And it's all day, every day. And so he didn't name the person, but this was a reference. This was a reference to Meek. This is pettiness level 10,000. I'm just so impressed with it. I love it. For those of you on YouTube, this is a picture of 50 Cent. So he posts a headshot of himself. 50 Cent posts a glamorous headshot of 50 Cent. And then he says, you sold 6,000 copies of your last project. You should not be on vacation. Still chasing the dream or embracing the nightmare. Stand by your man. I respect that. So this is a comment towards Meek Mill. I guess Meek Mill is on vacation right now. He is referring to P. Diddy as his man because there are some rumors that Meek Mill and P. Diddy were more than friends. So now P. Diddy is also like tangentially being involved in the rap beef. And then he has his own, of course, the massive thing going on with him. Caitlin, did we find out what Meek said about 50 that would start this?
Sort of. So it says Meek Mill bashes 50 Cent for beefing with Diddy's son, Christian King Combs. So hearing the sour words. Okay. Yeah, right. Okay. So sorry, guys. So there are actually a couple side beefs going on that have nothing to do with this. Yeah. I forget who. There's someone else too who out of the blue, Chris Brown, out of the blue insulted. He doesn't normally rap. He normally sings. Mm-hmm. Google Chris Brown diss track. He just went, Quavo. Yeah. Because Chris Brown said, I promise I'm getting to a point, but now I just have to, okay. Chris Brown said that, so Quavo's cousin was, as we all know, Takeoff was Quavo's cousin. You guys are like, obviously, Jen, we know that. And he was killed and in a shooting that was very tragic, and Quavo was there. And just out of the blue, nobody even knew that Chris Brown had a problem with him. Well, at least I didn't. And out of the blue, Chris Brown went and did this huge diss track against Quavo. And in it, he was like, people wish that you had been the one who was killed. But it was just so apropos of nothing. Everyone's like, what? And what's crazy is that whole track got forgotten because he released it in the middle of Drake Kendrick. And so everyone kind of looked over there like, wait, what? And then they moved on. They were back to Kendrick and Drake. And so there was still this delayed reaction of like, why? So, okay. So, Diddy has been 50 has been constantly on his Instagram talking about Diddy. And so Diddy's son released a diss track. I forgot about this. You guys, listen. You will be so glad you stuck with me for this. Okay, so 50 has been trashing Diddy constantly. Like if he can find an unflattering video of Diddy, something that implies that Diddy did even more wrongdoing than he's been accused of, 50 will post it. Probably because the mother of 50's child has been kind of involved with Diddy. And Diddy probably put her up to like going against 50. Anyway, it doesn't matter why, but 50 has been going after Diddy a lot. So Diddy's son, King Combs, because Combs, of course, is Diddy's last name. So King Combs, decided to produce a diss track of Diddy. Bad idea for a lot of reasons, because he's a rich kid, but he's talking about being from the streets, whereas 50 Cent is from the real streets. He was shot 9 times. His mother was killed in a drug deal. He never knew his father. He grew up in a very chaotic home raised by his grandparents. Diddy has a true street thug, whatever you want to say. Like, Diddy is the real deal. And like, P. Diddy's son has never known anything but luxury and wealth, but he's talking like a gangsta on his diss track to Diddy. This is the funniest thing. Caitlin, if I play this from 50's Instagram, because I forgot about this, so it's not prepped. If there's language, can you edit it out in post? Okay, let me see if I can find this. This is one of the funniest things I've maybe ever seen in hip hop. So
Bluetooth?
Yeah, let's do Bluetooth. Is there audio on this? Is it playing? This is worth it, guys. Hang on. Sorry, I just forgot about this, so it wasn't prepped. Okay, so yeah, I think this is it. All right, let's play. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to hold it up, Caitlin, because Bluetooth is not connected. You may have a lot of editing to do in post, okay? But this is so worth it. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard. So this is Diddy's son's diss track against 50 Cent. He says this.
Knock them walls down like when them Fetty boys ran in both our cribs. Too bad they ain't know we bought the one next door, cause that's the one they miss.
Do you hear what he just said? He said when those the feds, broke down our cribs, too bad. Like, he said they got the wrong house.
What?
I mean, he just said in his diss track of 50 that there is a bunch of incriminating stuff in the house that the feds did not raid.
Why would you do that?
This is where, it's like, this kid is clearly not from the streets.
No.
Because people who are from the streets don't go tell the cops. Like, so yeah, the contraband, it's in the closet, it's in the left, like not the closet that's on the right, but the one that's more like left front. That's where all the evidence against us is. You don't go rap about that. That's exactly what Thug is on trial for right now. Young Thug. I know you guys you're like, Jen, we know. Okay, so guess what? I'm actually getting to my point. So now 50 and Meek Mill are getting into it, and it's the funniest thing to watch to watch 50 go after Meek. And the comments are funny too, because all the comments are like, why do people go after this guy? Like, 50's got time. He's always got time. He's all he does. And what's funny too is 50, I've read both of his memoirs. They're excellent. They're very, very good. And 50, he's actually a healthy living person. He's sober. He doesn't do drugs. He doesn't drink. And so he'll get up and work out at like 6 a.m. So he'll be on Instagram, and it'll be a post like 6:17 a.m. It'll be some tawdry video making Meek Mill look terrible. And everyone's like, 50, we just woke up. Like, can we brush our teeth before we get into this? Okay, so that is what is going on in the rap world. Here is where we weave it all together, where the mess becomes a sock. We're knitting a sock, and now here's where it comes together. Okay, so now you might say, Jen, this is so random. This is so random that you follow hip hop and are into hip hop. Like, why would you follow that? I find hip hop, I find the candor very refreshing. There is certainly some hip hop music that morally I won't listen to it, because for me it crosses a line. Now, probably literally every hip hop song I have ever listened to crosses a line for a lot of you guys, but I don't know. my lines are in different places. I think it's good to learn about people who have different experiences. And as I've said in other podcast episodes, cursing, swearing, it is the language of people in the struggle. It is the language of people under pressure. And hearing about the streets, people who have been murdered, have seen their friends murdered, they live in poverty, they're surrounded by drugs and violence and addiction, and they're having a hard time finding a way out. They're probably, if they rap about that experience, they're probably not going to use language like, "Aw, shucks. This is a shame that I got shot at again. They killed my friend Ben. That is bad, and now I'm sad." It's like, no, I mean, when you are in very intense situations, your language will reflect that. That's why the people who are known for cursing, pirates, gang members, people from the streets, mothers, it is people under pressure. That language comes out when you are living in the hard streets of the ghetto, of motherhood. It's that language comes out under pressure. So that's why I don't have an issue with the language that most hip hop artists use, because I think it's the language of people under pressure. And again, yes, there are songs that do cross the line for me and I don't listen to. So, but I love hip hop. So it's random. It's random, right? Why would I have this interest? Why am I so interested in this subject? Nobody knows that question. I'm actually not answering that one because I don't know, but it is an interest. And for many years, I tried to talk myself out of it. Like, in fact, in my first book, Something Other Than God, a surprising number of the 1-star reviews are because I have a chapter about Tupac, where I was pondering, what does God do with a guy like Tupac? He definitely had some bad things going on. But he wasn't corrupt to his soul. And in fact, a friend of my husband's from Yale was Tupac's attorney. And in the book, I tell the story of a story that only we know. We and my husband's friend, his roommate from Yale. There's it's a really moving story about how Tupac just showed up at his office with his whole entourage, the gold chains and everything. And it really freaked out everyone in this, very, very white bread kind of office. And Tupac and the whole squad showed up. And my husband's friend was like, "Hey, what? The case is over. What are you doing?" And Tupac said, "You are the only person who came to visit me when I was in jail."
Wow.
And thank you. Because I guess my husband's friend went there. Like, I mean, obviously he was his lawyer, but I guess he made some extra trips to visit him when he didn't need to. And Pac went all the way up to his office just to look him in the eyes and say, "Thank you." So in my book, I was just thinking out loud, like, because the book was about my conversion to Catholicism. So it's like, with the Catholic worldview, what do you do with someone like that? I mean, he did bad things. If he even did half of what he said he did in his songs, he had some pretty big sins. But it's like, but he wasn't like a, horrible down to the core of his soul human being. So anyway, that's what the chapter was about. There are all these 1-star reviews of them being like, she calls herself a Christian and she wrote about this rapper. And I told the whole story of this really beautiful moment. And literally, there are all these people. They put down my book to go leave a 1-star review on Amazon because I mentioned Pac. So after that, I was like, okay, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't be so interested in hip hop. And I tried to stop following it, and then I had no joy in my life because my ability, I should be a hip hop journalist. Like, when this podcast, when I finally get tired of losing money on this podcast and we wrap it up and there are no more podcast episodes because I was underappreciated on YouTube because not enough people subscribe to my channel, so I quit. When that happens, I will be a hip hop journalist is probably what I will do. Okay. So, I was tempted to not continue to follow hip hop because the Catholic ghetto said that I shouldn't. And in their defense, it was a lot of Protestants actually leaving the 1-star reviews. So whatever. The Protestant ghetto also said that I should not be following hip hop. So I tried not to. But after a while, I realized, no, I know what it feels like when something you are doing is anointed. I don't even know what that word means, but it's like it's blessed. It's like God is with you on this one. And I don't know whether it means like this was actively God's will that he was like, man, I'm going to make her the biggest hip hop fan. I don't know how the divine economy works exactly, but you know that feeling of just, here's what it is. You know, you found something that is a blessed thing for you to be involved in, to be interested in, when you feel a certain type of love come out of it. So it's not love like lust. It's not love like some people love partying and doing keg stands. It's love like it's selfless. And I feel something pure and good within me and with the way I am reacting to people in this situation when I am pursuing this activity or this interest. And I feel that with myself. I am my best self when I am thinking and talking and reading about what's going on in the hip hop world. You guys see it. I mean, you see the joy that is on my face, that both of the YouTube viewers are like, look at the joy on. I'm so glad that once a year I pull up Jen's podcast and I watch on YouTube because of the joy on her face when she talks about hip hop. It brings out that agape kind of love. Agape is, the Greeks had different words for love, which is so smart. There's like the more lustful kind of love, and agape is the more selfless kind of love. And it truly, it's so funny, but it brings out like the agape love in me. And so let me tell you how God has used that. And the lesson here for you is when you have a random interest, and maybe it's even an interest that is on the line as to whether it is appropriate for a person of character such as yourself to be into. When you have an interest, but you feel that love, you feel that positive goodness there when you're involved in it, these are the kind of things that can happen. The first example is the most powerful, and this is the payoff where it all comes together that I've been leading up to. Let's play the Soulja Boy video again because, frankly, I can't get enough of it. But let's play it again because I have a point to make about it.
I was the first person to.
Man, stop playing with me. What? I'm the first to do all type of shit. I'm the first.
Okay, so again, I understood how funny that was when that was going viral a couple years ago because I've spent my whole life following hip hop. So I reached out to the creator. I saw it on Twitter. And then I thought, I bet this guy's on Instagram too. So I reached out to the creator and I just said, I sent him a DM and I said, hey, I just wanted to say, you just crushed it with this sketch. It's so funny. And I'm probably not in the normal demographic of people that liked it. So I just want to say you're reaching far and wide here. And I didn't think I'd hear back because I do that sometimes. I'll just randomly send someone a nice note, like, hey, I thought that was great. And like 80% of the time, people just don't reply. So I didn't really expect a reply, especially that his video quite literally got, across all platforms, it might have been closer to like 50 million. I mean, it was insane how viral this went. Everyone was talking about this video. So I did not expect a reply. Well, he replies. I know his real name, but I don't know if he wants it out there. So his online name is Agent Fee. So let's just call him Agent Fee. So Agent Fee replies in like an hour, and he says, "You are not going to believe this, but he's like, I was just watching your special. I had Apple, like the Apple movies or whatever up, and I was in the comedy section." And he said, when I got this DM from you, I had to do a double take. He said, there's no way that's the same woman. He's like, I was just watching your comedy special. He's like, this is insane. And so he was like, I'm so honored. Like, I'm flattered, that you had these nice things to say. Cause he's young, he's in his 20s. And so it was like, wow, like you've done what I'd like to do in my career. And like, I'm just so inspired by you. And, And so I said, well, that's so insane. And then I gave him some encouragement. I was like, look, here's how I did it with the special. That wasn't a Netflix special. I didn't have gatekeepers, opening doors for me. I built this career myself, and here's how I did it. And he was like, whoa, like that. Okay, that's really helpful. I'm taking that to heart. Then it turns out he's also in Texas. I am in Austin. He's in Houston. They're about 3 hours away. So when I had my sold out show, did I say sold out? I'm sorry. That just bothered. Did I sell it out on a Tuesday? Oh my gosh. Did I don't know, Did I? Oh, well, I did actually. Yep. Did they buy me a bottle of Veuve Clicquot because I sold out the Houston Improv on a Tuesday? Indeed. But, there is Caitlin. I'm going to airdrop you something if I can find it for both of our YouTube followers to check out when we put it up here on YouTube. So I'll never, if I don't get 100,000 followers, guys, those comments are never going to end.
Like, share, comment.
Yeah, exactly. Go subscribe if you want to hear me shut up about this. So Agent Fee ended, we've connected even before that, but Agent Fee ended up coming out to my Houston show and we had this great conversation, and now he has some projects. I don't know how confidential or not confidential they are, but he has some projects coming up that we might actually collaborate on. Ooh. And I've been able to, since I'm a few years ahead of him in life and in career stuff, I've been able to help him. Oh, I found it. Oh, this is awesome. Okay. I've been able to, give him some advice of like, all right, here's the next step in your career. Here's how to get 50 people to watch your YouTube videos. Like, this is, these are all of my best tips. So you can make no money on your podcast. Like I can tell you how to do that. And he has gone on to make such funny content. You've got to follow him on Instagram. And by the way, his stuff is clean. I mean, the comedy stuff that he does it's not, there's that clip of Soulja Boy using language, but Agent Fee doesn't use language. And he actually, I don't know if he's public about what his job is. So let's just say that his day job is very honorable. He has a great, honorable, wonderful job where he's impacting a lot of people. But okay, so this was the picture that's up on YouTube. This was in the green room at my show at the Houston Improv. That's where it was. Oh, so this was great. All the yacht club people were there. Oh, yeah. So in this picture, we're toasting in the green room. We have all the yacht club people here. Then this guy who does viral stuff about Soulja Boy, and everyone got along great. Everyone was having a lot of fun. And I guess you can't see. Can you see Agent Fee in this picture? Maybe. Yeah, maybe in the corner. But yeah, so I think you guys might be able to spot him for those of you on YouTube in the left of this picture. But this was just such a great moment where, keep the picture up for a second, Caitlin. And for those of you who are listening on audio, this is a picture of me toasting with way more people than should be in that green room. The capacity of that green room, these green rooms, Caitlin. Mm-hmm. It was an improv comedy club, so it's supposed to have 5 people in it. No joke, I think we had 35. It was insane how many people we packed in there. So I'm holding up a glass for a toast. We are all toasting. And so what's so cool is how I had a random interest in hip hop, and that led me to meet Agent Fee, who was there, and we just had this great conversation in the green room at my show. And then my husband had a random interest of sailing, which is not something that makes a ton of sense when you live in a landlocked city, but he made it work. He drives down to Houston. He does his sailing thing all the time, and we've met so many interesting people from that. It ended up impacting Caitlin's kids. Caitlin's kids now know how to sail because my husband had a random interest in sailing. And so in this picture, you see all of these people, and I would say actually 70% of the people in this picture, and there's a wider shot too, there were many more people stuffed into that green room than were there. No, 80% of the people in there were either gathered because of comedy, hip hop, my interest in hip hop, or Joe's interest in sailing. I want you to look at this picture or imagine it if you're just listening on audio, a packed room, everyone holding up glasses of champagne. I'm doing a toast. All of these people are having fun and gathered. And you can feel the camaraderie coming out of this picture. You can feel the good vibes and everybody having fun. This all, I found a picture of Agent. Okay, Caitlin, airdrop incoming. So you can feel how wonderful it was for everyone in that room to have that sense of having fun and being part of something and meeting new people. And almost all of them came from either I or my husband following interests that didn't really make sense on the surface. Did not really make sense. And by the way, now we have up a picture of Agent Fee and his girlfriend in the green room. You will, of course, recognize him from the Soulja Boy video. Love this shot of him. So all of these people who were gathered in that first picture in the green room were there because Joe and I dared to follow passions that didn't make sense on paper. And none of it made sense. Again, Joe being into sailing when he has 6 kids and a wife who travels a lot and lives in a landlocked city. Don't do sail. Pick any hobby but sailing. Caitlin, put the other picture back up, please. Any hobby but sailing. With me, stand-up comedy. I don't live in New York or LA. I have 6 children. I can't be hitting the clubs all the time. And of course I would need to do clean comedy, as a mom, and I don't live in a city that certainly has anything to do with clean comedy. Nothing makes sense about me doing stand-up comedy. The only thing that makes less sense than that is me carefully following the goings on of the hip hop world. That's the only thing that makes less sense than that. And yet the fact that we followed these inspirations gathered this wonderfully diverse and interesting group of people that ended up getting along. I think some of them kept in touch, and it would be like, oh, Commodore Graham, this is my friend, saying his real name, but Agent Fee. I met him from a Soulja Boy sketch. And just to make everyone uncomfortable, I told all the yacht club people the whole Soulja Boy backstory. And they're like, oh, well, lovely. Well, Mr. Boy sounds like a nice person and sounds like that was a good sketch. It was so funny. So this whole wonderful gathering was from us daring to follow our passions that made no sense. So next time, you can take the pic down. Next time you feel inspired by something, and maybe it doesn't make sense because of where you live. Maybe it doesn't make sense because of your state in life. Maybe it doesn't make sense because of your socioeconomic and racial background. If you're the whitest woman in the world who grew up in a neighborhood that has yard of the month clubs, and you're like, but what I care about is hearing about the streets and people being real about the thug life, so you could see how that doesn't make a lot of sense. But I really believe that sometimes you are meant to be a bridge. Sometimes you are meant to be a bridge between two very different worlds. And when we get very precious about who we hang out with and what we listen to, and if we start saying well, I am a good Christian woman, so I cannot associate with people who are into that or this kind of music or these kind of movies or whatever, well, you'll never be a bridge then. And certainly you would never have a chance to, witness to your way of doing things to people who do things differently if you put up walls and say well, as a good, that would not be appropriate for me to follow that. I really think that some of us we're meant to be bridges between different worlds, but you'll never be able to get to experience that and experience the joy of bringing different people together and just sharing love and camaraderie and just the love that fills the room when you gather people who have your same passions but are very different than you. It is such a God moment because you're looking at these people. I actually don't have a lot in common with people from the yacht club, and certainly Agent Fee and I, we're different ages, we're different races, we have had totally different backgrounds. But when it's we get in the same room, all of the differences disappear because we are united on that passion and the way that that passion creates something new in the world. And creating is, we're really because we're the only animal on earth made in the image and likeness of God, we're the only animal that creates. Other animals, they create, like my dog creates feces that we have to pick up. I love our dog, but he's not like painting a masterpiece or anything. It's a very sacred thing to be able to create, because only God creates and we are made in his image. And so that's why, actually, hey, surprise, good point alert. Let's pretend I wrote this down and planned to say it. There is something sacred about creation always, because only creatures made in the image and likeness of God can create. And so when you find that thing that you are meant to create or be part of or support the creation of. So like, for example, I am not called to create hip hop music yet, but we'll see. I am not currently called to create hip hop music, but I feel like I'm a part of that creation in a way, in the sense that I send prayers and positive thoughts to everyone involved in that. I like and share hip hop related content. I buy albums, I listen to music, I buy merch, of my favorite hip hop people. So that can be a role that you play in creation too, supporting the creators. And, so that is why I just can't encourage you strongly enough to follow those random passions and inspirations. Follow those random passions and inspirations, because you never know where they could lead you. And in fact, especially if they seem really random, but you definitely feel that positivity when you do it, you may very well be being called to be a bridge between your world and this very different world that you're called to and that you're interested in. And let me tell you from personal experience, it is a very, very beautiful thing when that comes to fruition. So we will put a pin in that topic. I was actually going to say more. I was going to say yet more about the hip hop beef and like how it's played out and all that. But because this podcast cannot be 2 hours long, because that's a bit much, I will put a pin in it, because that is actually not the main topic. Before we get to the main topic, don't forget Village Hustle Patreon. This one is a really good one. It just came out. It is episode 40. And this one's really pretty confidential. I have made a big decision in my career. It's really kind of it's like a sea change moment for me. And I wouldn't mind telling you podcast listeners, but I just can't say it publicly, because it's a pretty big deal and it's a little bit delicate and not everybody might like it. So, people like, not you guys, but people might not like it who I have previously partnered with on things. So, episode 40 of the Village Hustle Patreon, that link is in the show notes, and that is out now. You get instant access to that and all the archives when you join. And then, of course, after every single episode, we do an after party. That is the lower, the cheaper level that you get the after party. And that's a lot of fun too, where I continue talking on all of these subjects. So let's go. Okay, so let's get into the main topic here about how I am now a cheer mom, which is so funny to me. and how the life that I am currently living is the best life that I could ever possibly be living. It's so blessed. It's so wonderful. But I would have never chosen it for myself, because I thought I knew myself, but I was completely wrong. Like, I remember there was a time, it is shocking how wrong we can be about ourselves. There was a time when I said I wanted to live on land. I thought I wanted to live on land, Caitlin. It's like, how can you be so unself-aware? Like now, now my idea of homesteading is having 2 plants, one of which lives more than a week. When I have that situation, I like to romanticize my life and narrate my days like I'm one of the social media influencers. And so I'll be like, it's just important to get in touch with nature. That's a priority for me. I will say as I water my one plant, and it's like in this crusty leaf falls off of it to the ground and it just dissipates into dust. And then I'll be like, nourishing my family is important. So that's why I make it a priority. I put a Pop-Tart in the toaster. Like, it makes you feel like you're winning to do that. Influencer voice narration. You should try that. Narrate your days with the influencer voice narration, and it'll make you feel like you're winning. It's incredible. So, it's so funny to me that I thought that I could do anything related to like living on land. I mean, I used to live in the country. I know what it is like to live in the country, and I can't believe I ever thought that was for me. That's so funny to me.
I thought you meant there was a choice between land and water, and I was like, well.
Oh, as opposed to like permanently
so
sailing.
My blank stare was what?
Oh, living on land. Yeah, as opposed to being a pirate. Yeah. Yo ho ho.
I was like, what is this?
No, Joe will probably talk me into that one day. His big thing is he wants to live on a sailboat. And I mean, it would have to be one of those things where he's slipping Valium into my smoothie every day. The one thing he might be able to talk me into is his big dream. This is definitely something for our vision board. His big dream is that I would do... My husband has a dream that I will do a stand-up comedy tour where we travel on his boat. So it is all to port cities. He has this whole vision. He's like, you can do a yacht club stand-up comedy tour. And I'm like, that's what yacht clubs want more than anything, is stand-up comedy. But he imagines this, that we would roll up to New York City on his sailboat. We would pull up to a dock where my fans are waiting. And I'd be like, ahoy, fans, time for some stand-up comedy. To him, this makes total sense. And when I have any questions about it, he's like, my wife doesn't like solutions. My wife doesn't like good ideas. Because he thinks that this makes perfect sense, this tour. So look out for the sailing tour. And, if you live in like Nebraska, Kansas City, Oklahoma, Sioux Falls, I don't know. I mean, maybe if you have a river we could sail into, we could sail around your lake. We could go to your dock. Boy, that would have like all of our passions come together if we like play hip hop music on the sailboat as we sail around to the stand up. That would really be like Jen and Joe. Everything we're into comes together. Okay. So, what leads me into this topic and is related to like me being a cheer mom and how surreal my life is and how it's just not at all how I thought that it would turn out, is there's this, Caitlin, pull up the media. It has no audio. And it says, this is your sign to make a summer bucket list. So just pull it up. There's no audio. So they have a poster board. It's like a vision board, but written. This is a written vision board, essentially. I think you should do pictures. But so this is going viral. It's some guys, gals. They have a poster board and they have a checklist. So it's like all stuff that sounds so horrible to me. Can you pull it? Can you pause it on the board? Can you pull it up again? This is my, like, if I go to prison, what they could make me do to like suffer more list. Okay, pause it. So can you read any of that? Make it bigger. Can you?
Yeah, let me see.
What are some of these things on this list? What does that say? What
Trampoline park? Brunch?
What? Brunch?
Yeah.
Well, are they refugees? Like, why can't they go to brunch? Why is that a bucket list item? You've never been to brunch? Oh, but you have to get up so early for brunch. Mini golf, hate. What's the next one? Pet what? Pet Academy?
I have no idea.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I can't read a bunch of, I bet they want to go to a national park. I mean, that has to be on there if they're these kind of people. They probably want to camp. I don't know. You guys can see. You can screenshot
Beach
this
day.
and read it. Well,
Go thrifting. I do that on a daily.
yeah, yeah. I mean, are they prisoners? Why can't they? What is preventing them from doing any of this right now?
Watch the sunrise. Like, that's.
Oh, this is all. I mean, it's A, something they could do. Like, what is going on with them that they're not currently doing this? But B, all horrible. And then notice how much of this involves getting up early. But if I were to do a bucket list, which I'm so opposed to, I mean,
It'd be a little more elaborate.
Well, no, it would all start after 10 p.m. It would be all things that are like, like watch a movie until 4 a.m. I mean, none of it would start. There wouldn't be, I'm not even kidding, there wouldn't be one thing on that list before 2 p.m. The other day, I forgot to set an alarm on a Saturday, and I slept until 12:45. But
lucky.
in my defense, I don't believe in daylight savings time. That is not my truth. And so I really only slept till 11:45 a.m. For anyone who wants to judge me, I only slept until 11:45 because I don't believe in daylight savings time. Okay. Don't do bucket lists. Do it instead of bucket lists. I found a term that I want to give to you guys. Instead of bucket lists, I think instead of items on your list, you should have points of curiosity. I just came up with that before the show. Points of curiosity. Here's what I mean by this, and this actually very much relates to what we were talking about earlier too, the hip hop and random interest stuff and how it connects people and brings people together. The problem with bucket lists, which I've said before, we have a whole podcast episode called Bucket List, is that you don't know what makes you happy, and you don't know how bringing one new thing into your life might lead to this proliferation of interests and opportunities and other things. So let's say, for example, that you have this long bucket list, and one of them is visiting the Great Wall of China. But while you are in China, you meet someone who is, I don't know, let's say you're single, and they end up being the love of your life. And now you guys get married, and you end up doing all this interesting stuff with them. Like they're a sailor like my husband, and you end up sailing around. Well, your bucket list is going to change. And that is in the previous episode that we did about that. I was talking about how you need to hold all of this very loosely, because if I had created a bucket list any amount of time in the past, 5 years ago, but certainly 10, 15, 20 years ago, would have been a stupid bucket list. It would have been stuff that's like, honestly, I've learned now it's a waste of my time. Like, who cares about all this stuff? Bucket lists imply, the problem with bucket lists is that bucket lists imply that you know who you are and what will make you happy. And you don't. Most people don't. They think they do, but they don't. What you need to do instead is find one thing that you feel kind of passionate about, do that, and then reflect on what you have learned about yourself in this experience, and then evaluate from there. Because every thing that you feel meant to do, that you go ahead and do that thing, you learn something about yourself, and you change a little bit. And therefore your list will change. And that's why I really am opposed to having these static bucket lists, because it implies that you will be static. It implies that you will be static if your list is static. And so just have kind of points of interest. So I really believe that let's say you feel inspired. You want to watch the sunrise from Mount St. Helen. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. Let's say Mount Kilimanjaro. Okay, let's go back to St. Helen. Okay, Mount St. Helen. That one we can get. And let's say this is this big inspiration. You don't know why. It's so random, but it's never gone away. And you're like, man, that's a thing. Like I want to see the sunrise from Mount St. Helens. And then, so that the way most people do it, that would be on your bucket list, and then you'd fill it up with all this other stuff. What I would say is, I think there's some moment of transformation that's meant for you. That's what it is. It's that each thing that you're inspired to do, I think, is meant to transform you. It's meant to change you a little bit, to get you closer to the person you're meant to be. And so I think you should just evaluate, what thing am I meant to do today, right now? Go do that thing, and it will transform you. You will end up being a little different than before you were when you went to go see the sunrise on Mount Hood. You will be a little different from that, or you might be a lot different. Again, maybe you meet someone there who changes your entire life. Or let's say even you're, God forbid, like you're injured or something, but that injury leads to some transformation. You realize something about yourself, and the healing process is this huge turning point for you. I mean, very often these kinds of things put into your life a massive before and after moment. Something happens. Some angel is sent to you in that moment. And the whole reason that you were supposed to go out there, it was not about watching the sun come over the horizon from this particular point of geography. It was about you were meant to experience that thing or meet that person or have that encounter that you could only have being in that spot. And so bucket lists imply that the activity is the end, that it is just about, if it's brunch, it's just about stuffing omelets in your mouth at 11 a.m. while dressed up with friends. Like that's period, end of sentence. That's like the only point of it. Whereas a more inspired mentality is to say, no, I bet it's not about Mount Hood in and of itself, that being at Mount Hood per se doesn't check any sort of box, because it's just a random place on earth. What I'm really being called to here is that whatever kind of transformation is going to happen here. Therefore, who knows what the next thing you'll be inspired to will probably be different. And that's why I would say don't have a bucket list. Have a, what is the one thing that I feel inspired to do right now list, and then just continually ask yourself that. Again, that's how my husband ended up sailing. That is how I ended up in comedy. And what's interesting is, like, when I first did a comedy open mic, I felt very inspired to do it. And you know me, I don't talk myself out of things. That would have been easy to talk myself out of it, but I do not have impulse control. So like when I think of, and this is bad, this is why I had to buy nacho pants, as we learned in the last episode. There is a downside to having a thought and executing on that thought before you have even finished thinking the thought. There are downsides to that behavior. But if I had started going for stand-up comedy in a bucket list mentality, then it would have been like, okay, I need to do the comedy open mic and then the brunch and then watch the sunrise and then, go to the Austin Zoo. I've always wanted to do that. And then I want to go tubing on this river. I would not want to do any of that, but my bucket list would be too depressing for you to even hear about. It would be like sit in my room on this day and journal on this day and then do some more journaling and then sit in a different room. And so anyway, but if I had thought of that comedy thing as just one item to be checked off for the sake of the experience itself, I would have never ended up with this enormously successful career that I have. It's going well. I do love my career. Still waiting for the Comedy Millions, but I do love my career. You can help the Comedy Millions come in at jfcomedyspecial.com. Go pay what you want to get early access. But I do, honestly, I love my career. It's amazing. It makes kind of surprisingly good money given the line of work that I am in. And if I had had a bucket list mentality, I would have not ended up, I wouldn't have ended up doing any of this, because I think I would have checked that box. Okay, I tried a comedy open mic. And then rather than sitting with that and asking God, all right, what am I supposed to be learning from this? How am I supposed to build on this transformation that I've had? I would have just been like, okay, check that box. Now on to okay, I've always wanted to visit this library. Okay, go to the check. I would have missed the inspiration. So that is how you need to think of it. Now, this leads to, it's funny that I think I'm going to probably title this episode Cheer Mom, but I'm not even referencing that specific thing until very late in the episode. But that is what I was keying off of here. The idea that I have a daughter who is really into cheer, and I am now going to a cheer mom potluck. these women are roping me into volunteering. They're very active, these cheer moms, very, very extroverted people. I've already been to a cheer fitting where all of the moms were like, okay, well, this is the onesie and these are the bloomers and we need to, I'm like, I don't know these words. I don't know these terms, because most of these moms were cheerleaders themselves. Again, I was a pale, wafy goth who was like it pro-anarchy, against everything, would paint my face white and, wear shirts with offensive slogans on them. I was not a cheerleader. And so this is what keyed off the whole idea behind this episode. Is I was thinking about how when I was in my 20s, my friends and I would talk about what we wanted out of life. And I said very clearly, I said, well, like anything, family, kids, running a house. I mean, I just couldn't do it. I would be terrible at it. I don't have those maternal instincts. I don't have those skills. And if I ran a house, it would be a disaster. And I was right. I called it. I was so right. I did know myself in that sense. But I could have told you with authority and not entirely been wrong. That's why I would tell people I didn't want kids, because I said, I'm not good at it. Like I don't like noise. I know nobody likes to be interrupted, but I honestly kind of lose it when I am interrupted. Like I flip out if my train of thoughts is interrupted. I mean, you guys know when Joe, when I got one of those Glade air fresheners that like sprays the air like every few minutes, this thing tortures me. I've said this before because I know I said it, so I know that it's every 18 minutes. But when it does the psh, first of all, the sound terrifies me. It's very scary to me. And then I know how much time has passed. And then I fixate on that. I'm like, what have I done in 18 minutes? Have I done, is this, have I properly used the 18 minutes? That thing, that my auto air freshener is a torture device for me. It drives me insane. And by the way, I'm thinking, do you think that will be a relatable topic of conversation at the cheer mom brunch? Like, hey ladies, who here is terrified of their air freshener? Like, show of hands, round of applause. Who's terrified? It's super relatable. So I'm that person. And so you can see how I pretty convincingly made the case that like, I can't have kids. I mean, I can't, like, maybe I could sort of barely deal with one, but probably not even that. And so if I had more control over my life, if I had done things the way I had originally intended to do them, I would have missed the most incredible life that I could possibly be living. I mean, my life now, the level of gratitude that I have for my kids and my family could never be overstated. There are not words. Anytime I try to use words, it just falls flat. It's like, I'm grateful for my kids. It's like that sounds so silly because it doesn't even come close to the infinite amount of just love and just gratitude and like relief and joy and all that when I think about my family. But it is not something that I thought would make me happy, and it's dang sure not something that I thought I would be good at. And it's just because, we converted to Catholicism, did the whole, not using contraception thing. And yet, listen, within Catholicism, there are ways of avoiding pregnancy. We just like didn't do that really very well. And I mean, of course, I loved our kids, welcomed kids, even though it was really hard. It was just this kind of whole lifestyle of openness to life that led me to getting in a little over my head in the parenting department. But it goes back to that idea that I was going with what I thought was like right and true, but like going with the inspiration that it was like, there's so much goodness here. It's just good, like goodness and love and a proliferation of life has come into my life since I've been following this inspiration to just keep living this crazy alternative lifestyle where we're just having babies all the time. It's as hard as it is and as crazy as it is, and it was very hard and crazy. there was so much goodness there, and there was so much of that agape love there that I just followed it and I went with it. And it went against everything I knew about myself in terms of what I could handle, what I'm good at, and what would make me happy. It went against everything. I said so many times the only thing that would make me happy would be just being single and traveling by myself. If I were married, which was a very big if for me, certainly not having kids. I thought that having that single woman travel workaholic lifestyle forever is what would make me happy. And I was very convinced that that is the life I wanted. Like, when it's funny that sometimes people will say now as like an insult or something, you know, a woman like lives alone with her cats or whatever. I was always like, man, that's the dream. That sounds incredible. I hope I'm 50 and it's just me and a couple cats. That's what I used to say. And by the way, I still think if that is how your life turns out, I mean, I think that can be a really fun, amazing lifestyle, but it wasn't right for me. I would have actually not ended up thriving and being happy if I had ended up in the lifestyle that I wanted. And so this is what I want to leave you with, that the best thing I ever did is follow the path of love, because it took me so far out of my own choices and my own comfort zone. It took me down these paths that I would have never, ever, not in 1,000 years, chosen for myself. It turned me into a person that I didn't even know I could be. It brought out a side of me that it was like so good. I'm like, whoa, who knew that was in there? Like, dang, like that's amazing. I wouldn't have guessed. It just brought so much goodness into my life. And if I had that bucket list box check, I know myself and what makes me happy mentality, I would have missed it all, guys. I would have missed it all. I wouldn't have my explosively successful YouTube channel. Can I make one point without bringing? Okay, you wouldn't have this podcast. Like, I wouldn't have my family. I mean, like, none of this. I would be a tech CEO. That was my plan. I was going to be a single tech CEO. It's all I wanted. And mainly it's what I thought I would be good at and what I thought would make me happy. And I was dead wrong, but I was 100% convinced that I was dead right. I was 100% convinced that I was right. And I couldn't actually have been more wrong. So I cannot encourage you strongly enough to follow that inspiration. Find whatever the next right thing is for you that just seems fun to, even if it's not an activity, an interest, like me following hip hop. I'm not doing anything with it. I don't even go to hip hop concerts. It's just an interest. So follow that interest or that activity or that thing that you've always wanted to experience, and just see where the love leads you, and just think about, who has this made me and what's next? And don't have a list that you're checking off. Just follow where that love leads you. You will find that it leads you way outside of your comfort zone, and you will find that it turns your life into something better than you could have ever possibly imagined. All right, another fine episode of the Jen Fulwiler Show. We will be back with you next week. You need to watch my comedy special. Help the comedy millions come in. jfcomedyspecial.com. You get full access now. Again, it will be out on YouTube in July, but you get early access and you support me by getting it now. And we will be back with you next week here on the Jen Fulwiler Show.